welcome back. The Army's Directorate for Strategy and Transformation inside the Army Intel Corps may be a new office, but its work isn't new. The Directorate succeeds the ISR Task Force. Andrew Evans was the leader of the ISR Task Force. He's now the director of the Directorate. At the AFCEA and INSA Intelligence and National Security Summit, I asked him why the Army's intel operations needs to innovate.
I don't think it's a mystery if you look at any news or you look around the world, even look in your own neighborhoods, that this world is an increasingly volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous place. And intelligence professionals have a key role to play in that. And our role is to create clarity for decision makers, because at the end of the day, what we deliver is advantage in their decision making so that we can make a decision faster than our adversary may need to make a decision. And that's what's going to save lives for us down the road. And so our role is providing innovative capabilities that help deliver that decision advantage, right? So my boss, General Tony Hale, is a forward-thinking strategist in the way he views this, and he knows that we have 4 key questions that we have to answer as intelligence professionals, and our innovation work has to support answering those questions. So those questions are really very simple. Who do we think that we're going to fight? Where do we think that we're going to fight? When do we think this fight might occur? And then when we get into a fight, and we hope to not have to do that, but if we have to get into a fight, what type of fight might that look like? What will the adversary be, capable of doing? How are they arraying their forces? So those 4 simple questions are intelligence questions. And so if you want to be lethal, which is what happens at the very end of that equation, intelligence is really what drives that lethality. So this idea of intelligence or lethality starts with intelligence is something it's really important for the department, because we're the foundation on which we can have lethal action or non-lethal, if that were the case, to inform that decision that the commander needs to make. Now, innovation is the way in which you deliver on that strategy. And so early in the process, we stood up something called the Army ISR Task Force. I had an opportunity to lead that organization. And the idea was that we would begin to refine requirements for system performance to really give those soldiers that are the leading edge the tools that they needed to answer those key questions. But the task force itself and the nature of a task force is very sort of temporary, right? It's this idea that you're going to solve something and then you'll dissolve. But transformation and staying ahead of an adaptive threat is not necessarily something that you just solve and you're forever done, right? Transformation is something iterative, it's something continuous. And so my boss, again, as a sort of a strategist and a forward-leaning thinker in the space, said we can't take this role of transformation and say it's done, we've completed it, high five, let's move on. Because he sees the world, he understands the threats, and he understands how quickly they're adapting and evolving. And so he wanted to institutionalize this role of transformation. So this year, under all the mandates that we have received from the department and from the Army leaders about workforce optimization and how we really create war-winning capabilities, we really streamline what it is we're doing from a staff. He is hyper-focused on ensuring that what we don't lose is the vision for war-winning readiness and lethality. And so that's what we've done. We've created a new directorate inside the G2 that is focused exclusively on delivering transformation capability, for Army intelligence, help us to answer those 4 questions, and then building the strategy by which we all orient our efforts. And we call it the North Star, sort of you got to know where you're going, right? All roads have to lead somewhere. And so this team, again, I'm quite honored to have a chance to do this. And I believe that my core mission on behalf of my boss is just to help us set what that North Star would look like. He's going to give us his vision. We have to put it into action, drive us towards that North Star, and deliver innovative capabilities that help us answer those questions.
Did you learn a list of things in the process of working through the task force that you're now applying, or did you just codify or confirm things that you already knew or suspected you're now you're now manifesting through the office?
We in the world of transformation, I think that every day you wake up is a new day and a new opportunity to learn something, and so we are continuously learning. It's one of the mandates I have for my team is that we will remain agile, right? Because what we will always remain as intelligence professionals is anchored in the threat. right? It is the threat that drives our outcomes. We have a certain way that we might think something should happen, but we have to watch the landscape. We have to understand what's happening, and we have to be responsive to that. And so we're taking some of the lessons that we've learned in the early years of the ISR Task Force in terms of what it means to partner broadly and how you do that successfully. We can't build a monolithic empire of only similar thinkers. You have to have lots of folks that come in and contribute to that space to give you alternate perspectives, perhaps. And so we're doing that. We're building teams of people. We're collecting perspectives. We're collecting technological experts in this space, and together, in partnership with all of the other people in this space, our proponent out at Fort Huachuca and the deep thinking they do about the future of our MI Corps, our material developers out there in the world of the Secretariat for Acquisitions, partnering broadly with all of these folks to deliver those war-winning capabilities.
One of the things that's striking to me, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I was struck by the fact that you mentioned acquisition a moment ago, and how my takeaway was that that's a really important component of transformation in the Army. And I'm not sure that's something that's been the case historically in the 15 or 20 years that I've been covering these issues inside the military services, is that acquisition is so closely tied to transformation efforts the way that you and your colleagues are doing it.
Acquisition is where the rubber meets the road, right? You have to be able to develop, build, and then eventually field and scale capability. And that occurs through the relationships that we have with our acquisition professionals. We have some challenges culturally, and our secretary is very focused. He's laser focused on ensuring that when we deliver war-winning capabilities, we don't also say, you know what, I could do better for you, but I have this process by which I have to work through, and the process is unresponsive to your needs. Yeah. So I apologize that I can't deliver lethality. He's not going to let that happen, and rightly so. Yeah. Right? And so we're going to stay focused on soldier capabilities, what soldiers need. We're going to enable the acquisition community to use the authorities that they've been given to deliver that capability at speed and scale. And then our chief and our secretary say, we're going to start with soldier design in this process too. So one of the things that I like to tell people is that you can build a capability in a lab, and that feels like a promise to people. But if you put it in the dirt with soldiers, that's real progress for the United States Army. So we're starting with soldiers. We're asking them, what do you need to do your job? We're pairing engineers, material developers with them in the field, and we're accelerating capabilities as a result.
We have less than a minute left, but when you frame it that way, then it makes sense, where I think a lot of people were confused. Why is Army Futures Command combining with TRADOC? But when you talk about it from the context of how you build a soldier, it makes a lot more sense, I think.
Yeah, there's this hyper focus, I think, at times on what we call the big M, which is the material solution. Mm-hmm. But a material solution is a tool, but the employment of the tool is what makes a force lethal, all right? So we can't forget that there's a doctrine aspect, there's the way you organize around that, there's the way you train against that. It's how your leaders conduct command and control over that. There's this, we call it the .mil PF spectrum, right? We focus a lot on the material solution in the government. I don't know that that's where we need to spend our time. Technicians and technical experts will solve the material thing with soldiers helping inform what that needs to be. But how we employ that becomes much, much more important, especially in this volatile world that we described.
Andrew Evans of Army Intel's Directorate for Strategy and Transformation. You can read more about the Directorate on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com.